Now, from CBS 4 News, this is Facing South Florida with Jim DeFede.
Good morning, I'm Jim DeFede, and welcome to Facing South Florida. 18 years after the infamous Bush v. Gore Florida recount, we are heading towards another recount with national implications. The race for governor between Andrew Gillum and Ron DeSantis, the Senate contest between Florida Governor Rick Scott and Senator Bill Nelson, and the race for Ag Commissioner between Nikki Fried and Matt Caldwell are all heading towards machine recounts, with the Senate and Ag races likely to end up in a full hand recount of ballots. This is not sitting well with Governor Rick Scott, who has seen his lead dwindle as more ballots are being counted in Broward and Palm Beach.
Every Floridian should be concerned there may be rampant fraud happening in Palm Beach and Broward counties. And the Broward Supervisor of Elections, Brenda Snipes, has a history of acting in absolute bad faith. I will not sit idly by while unethical liberals try to steal this election from the great people of Florida. Senator Nelson hired one of Hillary Clinton's lawyers from D.C., and the first thing he did was tell reporters it is here to win the election.
Governor Scott has filed lawsuits in Broward and Palm Beach and has requested the Florida Department of Law Enforcement to launch an investigation into the two Democratic counties. President Trump also weighed in this morning, attacking Broward Supervisor of Elections Brenda Snipes.
What's going on in Florida is a disgrace. Go down and see what happened over the last period of time, 10 years. Take a look at Broward County. Take a look at the total dishonesty of what happened with respect to Broward County. Broward County, just press, Broward County /election. There's a lot of dishonesty.
And leading the fray is Florida Senator Marco Rubio, who has said Democratic lawyers are trying to steal the election. And Senator Rubio joins us now. Senator, thank you for coming in.
I wish it was under different circumstances, but thank you.
Do you believe Democratic lawyers are trying to steal this election?
Well, the answer is yes, and I'll explain to you why. Let's set a couple things up front. No one's troubled by the recount. That's automatic under Florida law. And it isn't of every ballot. It'll be a machine recount of all the ballots. If after that there's any race that's within a quarter of a point, there'll be a machine recount, a hand recount of over and under votes. All that is fine. There's no dispute about that. The concern here is that Broward County in particular, with 72 hours after 96 hours after the early voting period ended, was still counting early votes while every other county had submitted, the vast majority of them, within 12 to 18 hours, most of the votes within the prescribed time of 7:30 p.m. Remember, they stopped voting on Sunday night. And so not only are they still counting votes, they won't tell you how many votes they're still counting. They won't allow people access to the way in which they're counting. They counted provisional ballots without canvassing them, which is problematic because you can't unring that bell. As far as the lawyers are concerned, that's what election lawyers are here for. Election lawyers, if a Republican let's say a Republican hires an election lawyer, you don't hire an election lawyer to make sure every vote is counted. Election lawyers come down for the purpose of making sure every vote on behalf or likely to be on behalf of your candidate is counted, and frankly to try to disqualify as many voters as possible who are likely or did vote for the other candidate. And so elections should not be decided by who hires the best lawyers or the most persuasive lawyers. And that's where we're headed because of the incompetence and malfeasance of the Broward Election Department and Brenda Snipes.
Well, let's drill down a little bit more, because as I understand state law, one of the things about state law is that every supervisor of elections in all 67 counties have until Saturday at noon to report their numbers to the state.
The final number, their first preliminary report, correct.
Right. So that tells me that there is a period of time. Dade County, we're taping this on Friday, Dade County was still arguing about some provisional ballots even today on Friday.
That's right.
They will meet Brenda Snipes has said they will report their results on Saturday by noon.
Yes.
So why are you creating this hysteria?
Look at every other county. What are they reporting? They're reporting provisional ballots, overseas ballots, and maybe a small handful of others, but they're not. They're primarily focused on provisional ballots and overseas ballots. That is what every other county in the state except Palm Beach and Broward is doing. Broward in particular, as of last night, was still counting early votes that ended on Sunday, which is why the law says you finish voting on Sunday, you can begin to canvass right away. And then on Monday, if some of them are provisional and the like, and then on Monday, you're supposed to download all of that into your system so that at 7:30 p.m. you press send. There's no early voting on Monday. There was no early voting on Tuesday.
But there seems to be, you seem to be conflating two issues. One seems to be whether or not they're slow in their job, job. And the second is that there's fraud. What evidence of fraud do you have in the Supervisor of Elections office for this race?
Well, first of all, I didn't say fraud. I said that election lawyers are down here to steal an election. Second of all, the answer is we don't know. And that's the problem. These laws on disclosure and timeliness exist not simply so that we can know soon enough who won, but to inspire public confidence that no matter what the outcome, it was done appropriately. They were designed specifically to avoid the scenario that we have now, and that is a close election in which over a period of days, more and more votes begin to emerge, not from provisional ballots, not from overseas ballots, but from early voting. And making matters worse, she won't say how many she has, how many are there, how many are left to count, which is impossible for her not to know, because the minute a ballot arrives, they have to log it in. But I go back to early voting. Early voting ended on Sunday. On Sunday, Miami did, so there were no early votes filed on Monday. There were no early votes filed on Tuesday.
They don't start counting them until
canvass.
Day.
They can absolutely canvass them. They're supposed to download it into their system and press submit at 7:30 p.m., meaning canvassed and also tallied.
You talk about having confidence in the system for voters. Aren't you undermining that confidence through some of the words that you've spoken by talking about lawyers coming in to steal the election, that there's been rampant abuse and incompetence in the Broward Elections Department? Aren't you doing the very thing that you're saying you want to guarantee?
No, and
which is you're undermining confidence. Will anybody believe the results of this election now?
Well, but that's not something we created. If you were saying I'm doing this about Miami-Dade had more votes cast than Broward County. You don't hear me here saying Miami-Dade County didn't go for went for Bill Nelson, went for Andrew Gillum. Republicans consistently lose Miami-Dade County. I'm not here to tell you that Miami-Dade County is a place where votes were stolen or fraud occurred or their lawyers are here to steal an election. I'm pointing to Broward County, and this is not the first time. This is a pattern of behavior on their part. And so one thing is to unnecessarily.
But who's so if there is?
But one thing you said, it undermining the credibility of the system. I didn't create these problems. She did, and her conduct has. Now you can't be asked to ignore it either, because this is a pattern. This is not the first time. This is a person who destroyed absent ballots in violation of the law. A court found that. Person who was opening absentee ballots before they were supposed to in violation of the law, and a court found that. A person who printed ballots a few years ago that didn't have one of the constitutional amendments on it. This is a pattern of behavior.
So do you believe Brenda Snipes is doing something deliberately to aid and help Bill Nelson?
I believe that at best, the best case scenario, she is incompetent and doesn't know how to do the job. Worst case scenario is there is something nefarious involved here. And in between, within incompetence provides the opportunity for people that want to do wrong to be able to get away with it.
See, but you're creating the perception that they're creating new ballots, that numbers, the governor in particular, suggesting that ballots just start showing up out of nowhere, as if they were created and are now being funneled through the system to increase the numbers.
But those weren't my words. What I said is we don't know how many ballots they have. You don't know how many ballots they have. She won't tell anybody how many ballots they have. They're supposed to be transparent about that. You're supposed to say we have 10,000 ballots left to count. We're sorry we couldn't meet the deadline on them, but they're there. We're going to count them. We're going to get them out as soon as possible.
But again, I go back to the idea, is there some sort of, do you believe there's some sort of mastermind who is trying to engineer new votes, illegal votes for Bill Nelson?
No, I believe that they have votes that they are counting, and they will not tell anybody when they came in, how many of them there are, and what process they're using to follow. At the end
of the day, as long as every person's legitimate vote gets counted, whether it takes 1 day, 2 days, or until Saturday at noon, what difference does it make?
It makes a huge amount of difference. Number one is, if they don't know how many votes they have, how do we know they came in on time? Number one. How do we know that they haven't opened and canvassed them, as we know they did with 200 provisional ballots? She counted 200 provisional ballots before she had canvassed them. And once you open that envelope and take out a provisional ballot, there is no way to rematch it back to that envelope if it's found not to be legitimate. That entire process is now in question because of her actions.
So we're headed to a recount. No matter what, there's going to be a machine recount and likely a manual recount in 2 races. The state law says that recount has to be completed by November 18th, with the election results certified by the cabinet on November 20th.
Correct.
It is virtually impossible that all the manual recounts are going to be completed by November 18th.
Well, the manual recount is only of undervotes and overvotes,
I understand
not of every
that.
ballot.
But that took in the district that your friend ran in, David Rivera, there was a manual recount in his state house seat 2 years ago. That took almost 2 weeks in a single state house seat. Well, my question to you is, if on November 18th, ballots are still being counted, and attorneys go into court, the Democratic attorneys go into court and ask for an extension, would you support them on that? The question is, will you allow the manual recount to go to its completion as opposed to the arbitrary November 18th date?
Yeah, again, I'm in favor of whatever the law allows for. I don't know what no, listen, Jim, I don't know what the law allows for in that procedure. Bottom line is, I have no problem. Here's I guess your question is, am I ever going to advocate for them to freeze the scoreboard? We're ahead, stop counting votes. I've never argued for that, so long as it's done pursuant to the legal process on which to do it.
But the law says that the recount has to end at November 18th, and that if any county that doesn't submit their recount numbers, then they're considered non-voting counties, and you go back to their old numbers. It's never going to be completed in a lot of those larger counties, which are Democratic counties, by the 18th. Would you encourage?
Well, I haven't heard counties say that. I haven't heard any counties say they're not going to be able to complete it by that time frame, and most certainly we'll see. Now, obviously, do I have confidence that Broward County will be able to complete it? If they couldn't even do all of the ballots that came in through the normal process that way, will they be able to account for the overvotes and the undervotes, which is another topic to point to? Listen, this may actually benefit the Democrats. There's 20,000 vote difference between the number of people that didn't vote for governor and didn't vote for Senate in Broward County. No other state even comes close to that. I mean, it's an anomaly in the system.
My question is, should the manual recount go till its completion, regardless of a deadline that may be set in the statute?
I mean, my tendency is to say yes on something like that, because I want all the votes to be counted. Again, but going back to the point, why are we here, and why would there even be questions about that, and why are there even controversies over it? Because procedures were not followed. If on election night at 7:30 or midnight or even early the next morning, we were presented the numbers that we're facing now, people would be upset. There'd be people out there saying things on social media, but you wouldn't have this firestorm. This firestorm is because the tally keeps coming down in terms of the difference between the partisan candidates. And we have an elections department who refuses to tell anybody how many ballots they have left to count, where they come from, or what process they're following in order to approve them.
Was it appropriate for the governor to ask FDLE to come in? Doesn't that look like his police force basically coming into counties that are not trending well for him?
Well, again, if there is evidence of wrongdoing anywhere, the governor and the FDLE, that's their job to look at it.
But where's the evidence, other than just slow or incompetence, where is the evidence of wrongdoing in terms of fraud?
In this county is already, in fact, this county, Broward County, is already under the court order operating with monitors that are supposed to be in there monitoring all of this. So we haven't heard from them yet because of what they've done in the past. This is a county that in the past has opened absentee ballots before the law allowed them to do it. This is a county, this is election supervisor that at one point actually released voting numbers before 7 p.m.
Was it appropriate for the governor to, standing in front of the official residence of the governor of the state of Florida, to make the argument that he did about how liberals are trying to steal the election?
Well, that's partisan talk, and certainly the governor's position is a partisan position. I don't think there's anything illegal about him standing in front of the governor's mansion and talking about the conduct of an election, which is a state function.
Well, why did it? You know, as you said, there's been a history. There's been a history with Brenda Snipes for a long time. Why didn't the governor take action and remove her for incompetence sooner?
Well, that's probably a question that should be answered in the future about why that hasn't happened in the past. You know, again, at the end of the day, he probably was. I'm speaking for him. I don't know that this is the answer, but she's elected. You want to give some deference. Usually removal is as a result of criminal wrongdoing, not simply because you disagree or even because you think someone's a bad mayor or, in that matter, a bad election official. But here's the bottom line. This is already a dangerously divided country. The last thing we need is major elections in which half the country ends up concluding the other half did something wrong. She has opened the specter of that through this behavior. People win or lose elections all the time.
Are you not fueling that?
No,
though?
I'm pointing to what she's done. It would also, that in essence, that national unity should not come at the expense of the truth. And if there is something wrong that's being done that's inappropriate, it should be pointed to, because it'll happen again in the future. If you think this is bad, imagine this scenario playing out in a close presidential election 2 years from now. Just imagine what that would do to our country and what it would do to our state.
Well, we saw it in 2000.
Well, but not in this environment. The environment in 2000 was divisive, but not like this. This is the most divisive environment in the last 50 years. And to inject into that this simply because of the conduct of an elections department that has not followed the law and has not been forthright. The media's down there asking questions and she won't answer it. So, and again, this is not a new thing. The issues with Broward elections have been consistent. And I'll predict one thing. If Bill Nelson ends up losing, and at this election, it could be the Democrats turning on her and saying he lost because you designed a ballot, if that's the reason, that was flawed and undercounted the Senate vote.
Senator, thank you very much for your time. Up next, State Representative Joe Geller. We're going to take a look back at the 2000 Florida recount. He remembers it vividly.